All right, so hello and welcome back. So as promised, we are continuing the series with Vlad at the Battle of Targoviste, Part 2 by History March. The original video is in the description. Thank you to my patrons. Thank you for watching. And if you like this stuff, please like and subscribe. Otherwise, let's get to it.
Word spreads across the Balkans and beyond about the effectiveness of Vlad Cepeš's raid into Ottoman territory. Using his knowledge of the empire's military organization, something he learned during his time in the Ottoman court, Vlad selectively targets vital Ottoman military infrastructure in northern Bulgaria, crippling their capability to quickly respond to Vlahian attacks.
So his raids were devastating for a couple of reasons. I'll just start listing them. One, Danube River basically is almost impassable. Well, for a big army, you're going to know when they're coming. Let's put it that way. It's not impassable, but you're going to know they're coming. So it's a hard river to cross. Two, take the fort, which he did on the river, and he burned and pillaged everything out here. Now, you can see that this is going to basically be very hard for the Ottomans to have supplies at, because, no villages means no supplies. Villages are all dead. So any army out here is going to have struggle logistically, and is going to give Vlad a opportunity to counterattack or at least redeploy to a crossing point that if they try to use this, it's bad. The only other parts are up here, which is even further away from the Ottomans, from their supply lines. So he is preemptively attacking to be on the defensive.
He destroys crossing points into Vlahia, sacks those fortified cities that serve as bases, pillages and burns key towns that have military duties and store agricultural supplies, as well as other provisions for the Ottoman army. Economic damage and chaos spread far and wide, as countless thousands of civilians perish at the hands of Vlad's horsemen. But now, more Turks are coming. Mehmed II recently concluded a highly successful campaign against an anti-Ottoman alliance in Anatolia, extending his rule on the peninsula and achieving the ultimate goal of his campaign by conquering Trebizond, the last of the Byzantine Greek cities. Back at his palace, while tending to the...
And it's not the Byzantine Empire at that point, it's like Trebizond kind of thing-majigger going on.
Administration of the empire, news reaches Mehmed about the carnage caused by Vlad Cepeš in Bulgaria. Large groups of the Turkish population are fleeing south, bringing with them tales that the Impaler prince is on his way to Constantinople. Mehmed decides to take matters into his own hands, not least because the spreading of such rumors could turn Vlad into an undisputed hero of the entire region and destabilize Ottoman rule in the Balkans. The Sultan becomes even more concerned after reports reach Constantinople that King Matthias Corvinus sent the experienced Seklid mounted troops in support of Vlad's war effort. If these reports are true, this would mean that an alliance between Matthias and Vlad may have been formed against the Ottomans. Mehmed further suspects that an even broader Christian alliance might be planning a crusade against the Ottoman Empire, as Hungary increases their military presence in Belgrade, and the Pope sends vast sums of money to King Matthias. In return, the king offers Hungary to be the host of the Western armies and promises to provide troops for the Christian cause. The Hungarian king would eventually break these promises.
Yep. Yeah, the crusade was never going to happen against the Ottomans. Let's put it that way. Even if everyone stopped fighting in 1462, King Matthias was like, easy money. Print from Pope. Very good.
Despite not knowing Matthias's real intentions, Mehmed nevertheless diligently acts on the reports he received and begins preparations for a major conflict. Some contemporary sources place the number of Ottoman troops in the hundreds of thousands, which are highly exaggerated and unrealistic figures. For the purpose of this video,
extremely unrealistic. Napoleon barely crossed into Russia with 500,000 men, and that was the biggest army in Europe, okay? They are not assembling an army that big in 1462 with no medicine, no idea of germ theory, no nothing, and not dying of sickness, disease, and food, and it's impossible, at least for this time period.
We will use the accounts of the 15th century Venetian envoy to Buda, Pietro di Tomasi, who writes that Mehmed mobilized a 60,000 strong army, though modern research tells us that the number of troops was far lower. Mehmed assembles such a...
Either way, even 35 to 45,000 in the medieval period, which we're about to get to the Renaissance. Really, we're in the Renaissance now. That is still a lot of troops to get mobilized. Like, Vlad is not going to have anywhere near that.
Large army, expecting that in Vlachia he will be fighting against the joined armies of Matthias and Vlad, which also requires the Sultan to lead his troops in person. But there are further factors.
Because again, he built that army up to that amount of strength, not just to kill Vlad. Vlad he probably could have killed with 10,000, maybe 15,000 dudes. He's thinking that Hungary and Vlad are going to be in Wallachia, which points out that the Hungarian army is massive, the Black Army, which, long story you know what, tangent time. The Black Army, Hungary, basically, they were black riders. They had black armor, I believe, at this point. It might be a little bit after this. But basically mercenaries. And were very good against the Ottomans, really, for Hungary. And so either way, Matthias and Vlad would be in Wallachia. So if they're there, Mehmed II has to go as ruler, and he's expecting to fight that big army. And if that's not there, well, he doesn't need that many troops, but he doesn't know that.
Factors which require Mehmed's presence in Vlachia. Vlad proved to be a formidable foe, employing effective military tactics, logistical know-how, as well as diplomatic trickery to devastate northern Bulgaria and eliminate a number of Ottoman army contingents and garrisons. Mehmed has to take revenge against Vlad and reaffirm his image as protector of Ottoman lands. Furthermore, a demonstration of Ottoman power near the Hungarian border might discourage his biggest rival in the region from joining the planned crusade, and the destruction of Vlad's army would eliminate the only Christian country from the planned crusade that took action against the Ottoman Empire. Across the Danube, Vlad Cepes calls upon all able-bodied men to join the fight. The core of his army is comprised of around 2,000 experienced troops, his personal guard, foreign mercenaries, and the Sekli horsemen. The boyars with their mercenaries and vassals are able to field around 8,000 troops. The remaining 10,000 are formed by soldiers under local leaders of smaller landholdings. In total, Vlad assembles around 20,000 troops, though here too, modern research tells us that the number of troops was far lower.
Which makes sense. Wallachia is not a very big country. It's not a very rich country going up against, well, at this point, really a superpower, or at least a damn major power against the Ottomans. But 8 to 15,000 troops is still very impressive for him to raise.
Believing that King Matthias will keep his promise and will come to his aid, Vlad continues his aggression against the Ottomans by destroying their military and merchant shipping on the Danube, expecting help to arrive no later than April, before the ice on the Danube completely melts, which will allow the Ottoman fleet to sail up the river from the Black Sea. But April comes and goes, and Vlad realizes he must adapt his plans. The Ottoman army leaves Edirne in late April or early May. Mehmed plans to march west along the Via Militaris to Plovdiv, and then north to Nicopolis, using army storehouses along the way to stockpile provisions for the campaign, knowing that he might not be able to effectively supply his army once he reaches the devastated areas in northern Bulgaria.
Which is a very smart thing to do, to use these supply bases on this route, because, as he said, devastated. And once you get into Wallachia, probably going to be the same way.
Once at Nicopolis, from there he plans to follow a commercial route that leads straight to Targoviste. Meanwhile, the Ottoman fleet of some 175 ships is transporting more troops from the Black Sea and plans to sail up the Danube to support the crossing at Nicopolis. Vlad knows that without Hungarian support, he cannot wage an open war against the vast military potential of the Ottoman war machine, and that the only way to confront Mehmed's numerically superior army coming from the south is guerrilla warfare, by focusing on operations that rely on speed, mobility, surprise, and professionalism of the troops. For this extremely difficult and demanding task, the Vlachian voivode can count only on a small portion of his army. From the remaining,
which are basically your cavalrymen at this point, because if you're going to need to move that fast, that and that light, to move around your country, blow up things, devastate, do what you need to do, it's basically only light cavalry. Heavy cav, yeah, but light cav. And that basically is going to numbers down to a couple thousand guys, maybe, if that. Otherwise, the rest of the army is going to have to stay at the capital, Bucharest.
Remaining troops, Vlad forms a mobile expeditionary force and sends them to eastern Vlahia to hold off the Ottoman advance there and relieve the siege of Kilia, a highly valuable strategic city disputed between Moldavia, Vlahia and Hungary, but also targeted by the Ottomans. Eventually, the Hungarian garrison in Kilia stands firm and the siege fails, with the invaders suffering great losses. Finally, the Ottoman fleet meets up with Mehmed on June 1st. Vlad and his cavalrymen ferociously contest the landing, but despite inflicting heavy losses on the invading troops, by June 3rd, the Ottoman vanguard manages to cross the river and Vlad retreats inland to avoid losses. The Ottomans complete the crossing by the end of June 4th, the next day. The Sultan then divides his forces. The core of the army under Mehmed's personal command marches towards Targoviste. On Mehmed's far right is the second part of his army, the Akinji cavalry who guard his flank.
So let's just take a look here. Mehmed II has more troops. Vlad split his armies, or split basically his armies, taking his most cavalrymen here and some cavalry guys out here. And the Ottomans are getting greedy. They try to take over all parts of Moldova. That didn't work. And now they're landing up here. And he has his cavalry out here is basically his scout/protection. So, if you're Vlad, things are not going very well. You have, in fact, inflicted heavy casualties, but these guys are going to Targoviste no matter what. That's their target, okay? As Vlad, what's going through your head is basically, well, if they're going to go through this route, make it as hard as possible. Poison the wells, make no food, hit and run raids on them, okay? Or you could try to take these guys out too, which I don't know what's going to happen up here. Or you could take out the supporting wing here.
Due to the unusually hot summer, Mehmed decides to go through the thick Vlasia forest. Ottoman troops welcome the escape from the scorching heat, but in the shade of the Vlasia forest lay hidden contingents of Vlahian troops. Multiple ambushes and night attacks are launched against the long Ottoman line of march. Aware of how dangerous these night attacks are, Mehmed slows down the march in order to keep the troops more compact and starts stopping the march earlier in the day so that camp defences can be erected before dark. With his night attacks, Vlad successfully slows down the Ottoman advance and he plays for time while waiting for his expeditionary force to return from eastern Vlahia.
That is smart. If he's going to pull these guys out to actually fight the main Ottoman army at Targoviste, which is what he's planning to do, you can abandon this stuff on this side, unless you wanted to crush this. But they're going for the capital, screw it. And this definitely is going to delay the Ottomans.
Meanwhile, on the Ottoman right flank, the Akinji run into deserted settlements. The population and livestock are evacuated north as Vlad aims to deprive the invaders of any means of supplies, leaving nothing behind. Back west, the main Ottoman army runs into logistical problems of their own, as Mehmed's chosen route towards Targoviste proves difficult, not least because of the thick forest and poor roads, but also because of vast marshy areas and insufficient vegetation for animal consumption, not to mention the increased risk of disease in the torrid summer heat. But finally, after about 2 weeks of marching, Mehmed halts his army south of Targoviste and orders the camp to be set up on the banks of the Yalamitsa River. At last, Ottoman troops can enjoy an endless supply of fresh water. To raise morale, the Sultan orders musicians to play invigorating tunes. All seems to be under control, and much-needed sleep could not have come at a better time for Mehmed's troops, but the serenity will not last. Organisation of the Ottoman camp in many ways mimics their formation on the battlefield, a fact that Vlad is keenly aware of.
Because again, he studied the Ottoman court and their military and was a janissary, so he knows what their battle plans are, which can be very devastating.
Sipahi cavalry of the port is in the centre, Janissaries in the front centre, Anatolian Sipahi cavalry on the left, Rumelian Sipahi cavalry on the right, and the Azab irregulars on the flanks in front of the cavalry. The camp's defences consist of earthworks, palisades, and lookout posts, the centre being most fortified and additionally protected by artillery pieces due to Mehmed's presence there. Behind the tents are horses and pack animals. The vast camp covers around 460,000 square meters. Lurking with his cavalrymen, Vlad finally makes contact with his expeditionary force that returned from eastern Vlahia. Having issued orders for a synchronized attack from both flanks, Vlad orders his cavalrymen forward. He relays the plan to his captain, possibly a boyar named Galesh, ordering him to flank to the Ottoman rear from the east, while Vlad plans to flank the camp from the west, and then they would meet in the center to focus their attack on the Ottoman headquarters and the Sultan himself.
So they're trying to go kill the Sultan. Okay, first of all, having no radios and having people run letters in the dark to link up, that is already impressive. Second of all, I don't even know how they even were able. Maybe you have a time glass, and then when it goes off, but how would you know to turn at the same time? This is really impressive, that the fact they were able to actually move both units relatively at the same time without any modern form of technology. It's quite impressive. But yeah, their plan is going to be basically infiltrate the pack animals, which is actually pretty good with the camp layout, because the camp layout is actually, there's a lot of pack animals back here. I guess you wouldn't see humans, so it'd be a little disorganizing, but it's better. It's the only way in, and they're going around it, so it's actually a pretty good plan. You break through, you kill the Sultan, and then you run away. And if you kill the leader of a country during this time period, that country usually bows out, more than likely, and especially in the Ottomans' case, because it's not a hereditary title. Long story short, if Mehmed II dies, his son doesn't automatically succeed him. There's a lot of infighting that's going to happen in the Ottoman Empire. So decapitating him would be a very good idea if you want to win this war.
But the task of outflanking is a delicate one. Because of the tremendous dimensions of the camp, it would take the Vlahian cavalrymen around 4 hours to complete the maneuver. Vlad rounds the Ottoman left undetected. But the troops in the tents on the Ottoman far left are soon alerted, because a small part of Vlad's left flank hooked the Anatolian Sipahi camp. It is now only a matter of time before the rest of the camp is alerted to the attack, and Vlad knows that his actions now must be executed faster.
No plan survives contact with the enemy, and the enemy always has a say.
If he hurries, there is still a chance to retain the element of surprise, as it will take some time before news of the attack reaches the rest of the Anatolian Sipahis and the center of the camp. The Vlahian voivode urges his men forward. About 1 hour later, the Vlahian cavalry breaks through the camp defenses of the Ottoman center. Vlad Tepes spearheads the attack towards the tents of the Ottoman generals and the gold-red tent of Mehmed II. The surprise attack creates panic, catching the Ottomans in the center off guard and on foot. Vlahian cavalrymen hack their way through the Sipahis of the port and start cutting the ropes that anchor tent canvases, temporarily trapping many troops underneath. While in the darkness, some of the Ottoman troops attack each other in the confusion. Vlad and his men close in on the center of the Ottoman camp and smash into the janissaries that manage to regroup and form a line to protect the Sultan, thanks to their high professionalism. Momentum of the Vlahian cavalry charge drives a deep wedge into their formation, getting ever closer to the Sultan's tent. But the janissaries stand fast and manage to contain the push of Vlad's charge. Amidst the fighting, the Vlahian voivode sees that to his far right, his expeditionary force that was supposed to attack from the east is nowhere to be seen. It is not clear why Vlad's captain did not arrive with the expeditionary force. Contemporary accounts give us conflicting evidence.
Because it's now 2:43. Like, I would understand if they did get in there, right? Like at 12 or even 1, but like 2 to 3, yeah, there's a problem.
It is possible that this Vlahian commander wasn't proficient enough to execute the difficult flanking maneuver, and that he clashed with elements of the Ottoman right flank too early. Another possibility is that the two Vlahian contingents couldn't effectively coordinate the attack at night while being tens of kilometers away from each other.
Which is exactly what I said. Is like, that's almost impossible to do with the technology they have. No fault of their own, but yeah.
It is also possible that the Vlahian commander betrayed Vlad. Whatever the case may be, the fact is, Vlad attacked the Ottoman camp alone with his horsemen, and soon the gruesome hand-to-hand combat begins to tilt in the favour of the more numerous Ottomans. Outnumbered and bleeding from a head wound, Vlad and his cavalrymen begin fighting their way out of the Ottoman camp. Vlad's only option is to retreat southeast, because the news of the attack still hasn't reached the Rumelian Sipahis on the Ottoman right flank. Before sunrise, about 5,000 Vlahian and 15,000 Ottoman troops lay dead on the battlefield.
I want to hear those numbers again, hang on.
Vlahian and 50 way out of the Ottoman camp. Vlad's only option is to retreat southeast because the news of the attack still hasn't reached the Rumelian Sipahis on the Ottoman right flank. Before sunrise, about 5,000 Vlachian and 15,000 Ottoman troops lay dead on the...
I'm gonna go check this because that seems really high numbers. Nope. No, they're right. Those numbers are right. That is a lot of dead for a night attack of this scale. That's 15,000 Ottomans dead for 5,000 Wallachians. That's crazy.
The battlefield. As the Ottoman march continues, they are met with a horrific sight. A field of dead Ottoman soldiers in their thousands, impaled and rotting in the summer sun. Mehmed takes stock of the situation and decides to bypass Targoviste. He realizes that Matthias will not be coming to Vlad's aid, and that he won't be able to force an open battle against the Vlachian voivode, so to continue towards Targoviste would only expose his army to yet more ambushes and night attacks from the elusive Vlad Cepes. The Sultan is aware that the Vlachian voivode can keep outmaneuvering the less mobile Ottoman army and slowly bleed them dry using guerrilla tactics. The Sultan's assumptions prove true, as Vlad delivers yet another major night attack near Buzău, inflicting yet more losses to the invading army. Mehmed decides to march towards Brela, where his fleet awaits. The Sultan also correctly predicts that he can weaken Vlad's political position by leaving behind Radu to take the throne with the support of the Akinji cavalry. Radu indeed quickly wins the support of the greater boyars by giving them many privileges, and he soon takes control of the voivodal residence in Bucharest and Targoviste, as well as voivodal lands, subjects and trade routes in the south of the country. This secures fiscal stability for Radu, enabling him to establish his rule by August 1462.
This is an impressive campaign on a different level. Basically, remember the second march through Turner, all the way to Targoviste, all the way to Buzău, I can't say these names, got on a ship and left. And he departed some cavalry with Radu the Third, basically Vlad's brother, and he promised the boyars, the nobility, that Vlad had killed and taken a lot of their stuff away, and said, hey, if you support me, I'll give some of your stuff back and we'll be more lenient. And they all supported him, and they have like 10,000 guys, so yeah, it's enough.
In the meantime, Vlad retreats into northern Vlachia. Without the support of the greater boyars, it is unclear what is the reach of his authority at this point. However, he still holds two important trade routes, the Red Turret Pass and the Bran Pass, both strong defensive positions. The voivode knows that the Akinji will finish their pillaging and retreat back to Bulgaria before winter, which will leave Radu exposed, and he intends to ask for support from King Matthias to depose Radu. In November, Vlad and Matthias meet at Brasov, but the Hungarian king refuses to aid Vlad, knowing that if he supported an attack against Radu, the Ottomans will perceive this as a declaration of war. Enraged, Vlad decides to attack Radu without Hungarian help. In late November of 1462, Vlad heads through the Bran Pass. At the Oratia fortress, he is ambushed by Jan Giskra, a Bohemian mercenary commander now in the service of Matthias. The king orders Vlad's arrest in order to prevent the outbreak of a new war. With Vlad imprisoned, his brother Radu's rule is secured, and Vlachia is now firmly in the Ottoman grip. Against all odds, Vlad the Impaler came close to changing the course of history, but he was ultimately unable to stop Mehmed II, the man who transformed the Ottoman Sultanate into the Ottoman Empire and became known as Mehmed the Conqueror. If you want to learn more, sign up for a free trial with the Great Courses Plus, a subscription on-demand video learning service with over 70 top nations truly.
So, Great Courses Plus. So that's basically how you install Puppet Radu the Third onto the throne of Wallachia. So we'll read these last things and we'll wrap this up. Without help, Vlad Tepes was ultimately unable to control Wallachia and to stop the Ottoman onslaught. He ruled Wallachia for 3 periods. In 1448, so that's like before the Byzantines' fall. Again from 1456, which is after they fell, to 1462, and in 1476, the year of his death. Okay. And considering how close Vlad got to the Ottoman Sultan, The failing of his captain to come to his aid was perhaps what saved Mehmed II and his army from a complete disaster. Had the Sultan been seriously wounded or killed, Wallachia would have been saved. As I said, with the system of government the Ottomans had, if they did decapitate him, well, the Ottoman army probably would have left, and there would have been a lot of infighting and a lot of brother killing in the Ottoman Empire to see who would become Sultan. It is unlikely that Mehmed II was intimidated by the field of impaled corpses south of Targoviste. He was a man forged in many battles and was accustomed to seeing thousands of dead bodies. So, yeah, there you go. So, hope you guys liked my reaction to this video. Hope you guys liked the video. Otherwise, please like and subscribe if you're still around. Otherwise, have a nice day. I'll see you next time. And there's some videos out there for you to check out.